hear that there's not going to be any tax on tips?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Actually, it's
Oh,
only no federal income tax on your tips. So you still pay Social Security and Medicare and all your state taxes.
oh,
So there's almost no taxes on tips.
almost. Not quite what it sounded like at the beginning. You
Yeah.
had me there.
Are you going to encourage all your clients to pay their employees with tips moving forward and reduce the cost of their, like engineer firms can just reduce the cost of their engineering and ask people to pay a tip?
Do you think that would be good advice?
No, it'd be terrible advice because it turns out we're going to have to put the people's like job title or industry they work in on their W-2 because if you didn't live in a tip world before 2024, they're not going to let you play. They
Yeah,
did a pretty darn good job of closing all the loopholes where they're like, no, no, no. So anybody that's out there that is like, ooh, I'm going to switch to having my employees paid partially with tips, don't bother. The loophole's already closed. You have to prove that you were in an industry that received tips prior to 2025 in order to get the benefit. And it
yeah,
is only income tax. So it's not all taxes, just income tax for the feds.
yeah. They said that by October 2nd, the IRS has to publish the list of occupations that customarily and regularly receive tips on or before December 31st, 2024, because it takes place for 2025.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, how are we going to do this?
Good question.
It is 2025.
What do you think's going to happen this coming tax season?
I think that probably they're going to push things out a little bit because it's going to take time they have to have a new W-2 form. The software companies have to catch up and figure out how that's formatted. So I'm imagining that's going to take time because it takes time for all of that to happen. So January 31 as a deadline, that might get pushed out, I'm guessing. What do you think?
I think so because the W-2 now has to say what industry they work in to prove that they can have the no tax on tip option. And then there's other things that are needed as well with regard to overtime. The W-2s have to get amended by the government. And then once they're available, then all the software companies have to then change their forms that they have. And I don't think that's going to happen by January 31st.
No, and they gave them until October 2nd and to figure out what industries are included. And so that's a really short window, I
Yeah,
feel.
1/4.
I would like to touch on the fact too that you can only do this if you are filing for yourself, single file, or if you're married, you have to do married filing jointly to take benefit from this. And if your spouse doesn't have a social security number, you can't take this deduction. And it is a deduction. It's not a credit. And a lot of people who are bartenders or servers or in this kind of industry, they're not paying much in taxes anyway. So, whether they're getting much benefit from this is yet to be seen.
Right. I agree with you because while we know of restaurants where the staff makes very good money because it's like a high-end restaurant and the tips are quite high, for the vast majority of restaurant and coffee shop workers, they don't even pay that much in federal income tax to begin with
Yeah.
because they're at that threshold. So yeah, will it really help them at all much? Might be $100 here, $100 there. And for some people, $100 goes a long way. It means a lot. So I'm not dismissing it for the people that are basically in poverty or the working poor. This will probably bring more food to the table, which is great.
Totally. Yeah. It's a good thing. I would have liked it when I was waiting tables back in the day,
Yeah.
but could it be more? Probably. Could it be better? Maybe. Yeah.
Jackie, did you hear that there's no more taxes on overtime?
Wait, so if I work overtime, I don't have to pay taxes on that?
It's only the overtime premium, which in most cases is at 0.5%. So you get paid when you're doing overtime, you get paid like 1.5 of your hourly rate. It's only the point 0.5, which is considered the overtime premium. So only that portion is without tax.
And okay, but I don't pay any tax on that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you
No.
don't pay federal income tax. You're still paying Social Security, Medicare, and all the your state's taxes. So
Oh.
for most people, it's, I don't know, maybe 9% is the federal portion. How in the hell are we supposed to document how much is the overtime premium to put it on the W-2 as just the premium so that people can actually take this as a deduction,
Oh boy.
right? It is a
Oh.
big oh boy. Because
And
that,
this for 2025?
yeah, for 2025, we
Oh,
somehow magically have to make sure that we're tracking the overtime so the premium can be split out. So that also is going to have to be on the W-2s. The new W-2s will have to include an overtime premium box. I can't
yeah.
imagine there's any other way to do it because nobody can just take a pay stub and back into the overtime because people might have got a raise during the year. So it's not like you can take the numbers globally and know what it is. Now, I'm not saying that bookkeepers should start doing their overtime as this is hours and this is the premium. That's not what we're saying here. We have to wait for the technology companies to catch up and figure out how to do it. But you can imagine how difficult it's going to be, especially for 2025, for us to come up with that premium number. Yeah,
That sounds more challenging than the tips.
right? I can imagine it'll be pretty difficult. And you and I both got degrees in mathematics. So right away, I'm thinking of the formula like
Yeah.
x equals, and you could do a fairly elaborate formula and back into it pretty well. But hopefully, everybody has overtime as a separate payroll item and are
Yeah.
tracking it as a separate thing. Because if you all been doing crazy math in the background and just coming up with numbers, you're going to be real sorry come tax season this year.
Oh yeah. I hope nobody is doing that. But we know somebody is doing that.
I know bookkeepers that have the pre overtime premium split out as a different payroll item. So they pay regular pay for all the hours, and then
Oh,
they only do the overhead premium for the overhead, which historically has been a real dumb thing to do. And now the question is that the way we're going to have to do it moving forward? Or are the tech companies going to be able to figure out a way to segregate the overtime premium? If you have a separate payroll item, of course, you can do some math. But again, if people got raises, if their pay rate changed throughout the year, it makes it that much more complicated. One thing that I think is interesting is there's a lot of people out there that try to pay their employees as salary, even
right.
though really legally they're not exempt.
Mm-hmm.
Do it to avoid the overtime pay. And none of those folks are going to be eligible for any of this either, even though they're probably working more than 40 hours.
Yeah.
Work more than 40 hours and you're on salary, there's no overtime premium, so there's no federal income tax discount for you.
I wonder if this will push employees to who are on salary that really shouldn't be to encourage their employers to put them on on hourly. maybe.
I could imagine that, especially if you're like a project manager at a construction company and you're making pretty darn good money. I might be willing to say, listen, I normally am working 50 hours a week and I want that considered overtime.
Yeah,
Was I ever really legally exempt from overtime to begin with? And the answer is most of the time, no.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So for overtime, there's going to have to be a field that has overtime premium listed separately as wages. And then you were saying that it's not a tax credit, it's a deduction. Can you tell us the difference?
Oh, sure. So a tax credit, I am not a tax specialist. This is not tax advice. A tax credit will give you money back, even if your tax liability is zero. And a tax deduction just reduces your taxes and can reduce them down to zero. But
Yeah.
if you have a tax credit, you can actually get more of a money back refund, whereas a deduction doesn't work the same way. This is a deduction. So if someone's tax liability is zero, they're not gonna get anything back from this.
So if you are one of the working poor, whether you get tips or overtime, it's quite possible that the big, beautiful bill isn't going to do anything for you at all because you are already paying low to no federal withholding, is what it's called normally. So you were paying virtually nothing already, and this is only going to bring that number down to zero. You will not get any tax refund from this.
Most likely not.
So the vast majority of working poor that are getting paid with tips or overtime, this isn't actually helping them. It's really helping more of the higher to middle income wage earners because they're the ones that actually have the federal withholding that's due on their
Exactly.
wage. So, dear bookkeepers, I need you to be prepared to understand that you're going to have to list the industry, prepared to know that there's going to be a split with overtime between what the premium was and what the regular hourly rate was. And if you haven't been doing tips correctly, it's a good time to start. But if you haven't been doing them correctly up until now, it could mean that your business isn't going to, the employees aren't going to benefit from it because there's no proof that you had tips previously. So we have to wait for that form to be created by the software companies because none of us want to fill out W-2s by hand.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, something weird about the tips is it has to be a voluntary tip. So automatic gratuities, not included. Oh, this is what I saw. The IRS will provide transition relief for tax year 2025 for taxpayers claiming the deduction and for employers or payers subject to the new reporting requirements. I don't know what transition relief is.
Yeah. I'm assuming it means that they'll extend the deadline.
Yeah,
Let's
probably.
look up that word because it's hilarious.
Yeah. A narrow slice of the labor market, like we were saying, not too poor to owe tax, not too rich to phase out. Oh yeah, because there is a cap. It's
Hmm.
not just all. There's a limit up to 25,000
For that was for tips.
for tips.
Nice. Hey, Jackie, we
What,
both
Jackie?
worked at restaurants, right?
Right?
When you worked at a restaurant, did they have a rule that said big tables have to pay a certain tip percentage that gets added to the bill?
Yeah, big tables or tables that rented out a certain room
Mm.
had a minimum gratuity that they had to pay.
Yeah. Did your employer split out the mandatory gratuity versus the voluntary gratuity on your pay stub
No,
on the W-2?
definitely not.
Guess what? They get to start. Can you imagine? This gets into the merchant service software because most people are using some sort of a system to track the tables and schedules, and that all combines and it's the merchant system as well. So the merchant systems are going to have to now split out voluntary tips versus mandatory tips, which means we have to split them out on the pay stubs so that they can be split out on the W-2. And why am I bringing all this up?
It's the big, beautiful bill.
The big, beautiful bill. And the big, beautiful bill says you can only get the tax deduction on voluntary tips.
Oh, great. So all those minimum required gratuities aren't included.
No. And so if the restaurant I worked at in La Grande, Oregon, I suggest you all visit La Grande, Oregon. It's beautiful and amazing. The restaurant I worked at, they had a suggested tip sharing. What they wanted the servers to pool because we in the kitchen got tips in
Yeah.
our paycheck. Every
Mhm.
payroll, we had tips. And it was based on the tip sharing that the wait staff had. And they were encouraged to do a certain percentage, but I don't think they were forced. And that's where it gets tricky because if you have been getting tips as a cook for years, is it a mandatory tip or is it a voluntary tip? Right? Is the restaurant saying you have to give 10% of your tips to the pool, or do they let you decide? And then can cooks even get the tip deduction on their tax return? We don't know. They're in the right industry,
Yeah.
but are they included? So these are the kinds of things that are up in the air about the big, beautiful bill and tick tock, tick tock. We got to get moving.
We need to know.
We need to know. So you said something about the government offering transition relief. What was that about?
I don't know. It just said that the IRS will provide transition relief. I think that's probably extra time to make the transition. So probably that means that W-2s, they'll have a later deadline, is what that means. I doubt that they're handing out relief in the form of money.
Or therapy? Voluntary therapy for all bookkeepers. Go to
Free software.
gov// the big beautiful bill bookkeepers. Yeah, we're expecting there's going to be a delay. And the delay in getting W-2s means a delay in the employees being able to do their tax returns. In order for the CPA to do corporate tax returns, they normally want copies of the W-2s and W-3 because they have to tie it out to your profit and loss. They don't want to put $100,000 of wages on your tax return without third-party verification. That's really how much the wages were.
Sure.
And so this is going to slow down the year-end close, getting stuff off to the CPAs as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Going to
It'll
be
slow
painful.
everything down. And the people who are trying to file their own taxes. Yeah.
So everybody just expect everything to slow down this tax season. I would say treat February like January. Just like delay all your plans by a month right now. And so anybody that's listening to this that's an employee, it doesn't matter if you get tips or not. It doesn't matter if you get overtime or not. You too have to wait for the new W-2 form that matches up with the big, beautiful bill. Everybody hear me now. Jackie Rockwell will put this on social media. Everybody hear me now. You are not going to be able to file your taxes in January this year. Period. This is not going to happen.
Scene. So this whole thing with the tips, it doesn't apply to all of your tips.
What do you mean? First you said it doesn't apply to all the taxes, and now you're saying it doesn't apply to all the tips?
That's right. The tax cut on your payroll tax, income tax on your tips only applies to the first $25,000 of tips that you make.
Okay.
So basically, this cuts out, we already established that it cuts out anyone who is pretty low income, right?
Right.
Not going to get any benefit from this. But anyone who's making over 25,000 isn't getting any benefit after that 25,000. It's only up to the $25,000 in tips.
So the higher wage earners as well are not going to see as much benefit as they could.
Correct. They'll see some, but only
Mhm.
on that 25,000.
Well, next time I go to my restaurant client's office, I'm gonna take a peek at their books and see who made more than 25,000 last year. Like, was there anybody? And I bet there was. I bet there was a number of people that had more than $25,000 in tips.
I would think there's some people who, they're providing for their family. They're making a
It's their career.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This is a lot. And per the usual, it's all going to land on the bookkeeper's shoulders. So hear me now, people. Don't be giving your bookkeeper a hard time at the end of January when they can't get you your W-2. No, you can't do your taxes in January this year. No, you're going to have to wait to get your tax refund until all this gets squared away. Because most of the time, when these kinds of bills go through or there's legislation, it's for next year, aka 2026. It is rare that we ever have a situation where they say, "Oh, I know you're half done with the year, but we're implementing all of this." And we're just going to have to do a wait and see. And everybody be real kind to your bookkeeper.
Is there anything that someone could do right now as a bookkeeper to prepare for this?
Great question. I would say that look at if you are in charge of any payroll, look at your payrolls right now and make sure that you're doing overtime correctly, that you're capturing tips correctly. Make sure that you are doing it correctly on the front end because all the instructions are going to assume you were doing it correctly. And if you're not doing it correctly now, and then you read the instructions, you're going to make a huge mess of things. I think the other thing is if you are a bookkeeper that processes payroll, it's good to find out if your CPA firm is going to offer consulting support during this time. Like, are they going to actually be willing to help you make your system correct? And if not, you're probably going to need to find an accounting consultant that can come in and support you in this because some of it might be too heavy of lifting for some bookkeepers. It depends on the bookkeeper's skill set, but there's a lot of bookkeepers out there that really aren't in a position to be able to make any changes that are needed. I see a lot of bookkeepers that add a new payroll item, but they don't map it. So
Hmm.
it goes to all the default accounts that we don't want to use. And yeah, I think, keep an ear out. Jackie and I will do our best to keep everybody informed, but be aware that this is coming. I would tell the employees right now, you will not be able to do your tax return in January. Do not expect your W-2 until the very last day, which is January 31st. And because they said they were going to provide transition relief, it could be that those W-2s aren't going to be due until mid-February.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they pushed it out a month, to be
Yeah,
honest. Yeah.
me neither. So I think my biggest advice to bookkeepers is make sure that you, if you're an employee bookkeeper, or your clients, if you're a contract bookkeeper, are telling the employees right now, you will not be able to file your taxes in January, so do not plan on it. That's the best advice we can really offer now
Yeah,
because we need brand new W-2 forms.
that's right.
And we might not have everything set up in our payroll systems to populate said W-2 form.
Yeah. And how long until those softwares can be ready?
Yeah, so we just have to wait for the tech companies to catch up.
Yeah.
That's all we can do is sit and wait. Yeah. Jackie, it's been so lovely talking about the big, beautiful bill with you. I'm so glad we had this opportunity.
Me too. I love your new background.
Thank you. Reclaimed wood pallets,
Nice.
not created by me.